How's it going, everybody? I believe I'm live here, so I'm gonna just test this out to make sure that I am live before I start. Give me 1 second. Okay. Make sure that I am live before I start. Give me 1 second. Okay, this is working. All right, here we go. So we are working. We are live. Welcome, everybody. Today is June 8th, and we're talking today about self-storage investing, and a specific part of self-storage investing that I'm going to go over today is income generating projects. So additional income generating projects. So let me see. Just going to we'll give a sort of an overview of the types of products that we're going to talk about, and why don't we just go ahead and get started? So let me also send this to people. If you are here, if you see the comments in the comment section, if you register, you can then I'll be able to see who you are and see your name and answer questions. So happy to do that. If you do have any questions, let me see. Okay, but let's get started. All right. Perfect. Appreciate it. Thank you. Some people say that sound is good now. Okay, perfect. So today's topic, let's talk about today's topic right here. Additional income generating projects in self-storage investing, right? So you're looking at what are the other types of projects that you can do to bring in more income, right? So the first things are with it's always like rent, right? Bringing in rent. But let's talk about the additional things. And I have 3 specific additional things that we're going to go over today. They are insurance, they are parking, they are additional units. Okay. And we're going to get into that. But before I get into that, if you could, if you do have any questions, I do a Q&A at the end. So, pretty much we'll do over this presentation. Then I'll do a Q&A. And happy to answer any questions you have. And there's a couple people that have submitted some questions earlier, so I'll answer those questions first, and then any questions that anybody here has live. Also, if you do have a chance, I'd love for you to like or subscribe, or just give me a thumbs up. Just kind of helps the algorithm, and makes this worthwhile doing. Okay. So let's see. All right. Very cool. So thanks to you, Facebook. Oops, sound dropped. Oh, no, they said it's okay now. All right, it's okay now. I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, so let's get into it. All right. Just to give you a little bit of background of who I am, my name is Powell. Self-storage investor. I live in Los Angeles and have a background in multifamily. So most of my real estate investing has come through, most of my real estate history has been multifamily investing. And since COVID hit, I really added a different asset class to my investing, which is self-storage. I always liked self-storage. I always thought it was a cool asset class, but I really didn't know anything about it. And so I just took the time at that point to figure out, if I do like it, let me pursue it. And if I don't like it, then I can just drop it off of things that I'm interested in. All right. So now currently, this being June 8th, I have 8 properties that I've closed on since in about a year and a half. So the very beginning of January 2021 was our first deal that we closed. Since then, we've closed 7 more. 6 of them we did last year. 2 of them we've done this year, and looking at doing more, right? So actively pursuing number 9, number 10. So that's the plan. Okay. And just so you know, let's just get started. All right, forget it. We don't need any more bio. Let's talk about the very first one. Okay, let's get into it. Additional income. So other projects that you can do to bring in additional income. And now this is insurance. Now this is one of the very first things that we do when we look at a property, is whether or not they're charging tenant insurance or tenant protection plans, right? Now what these are if you are in self-storage and you are a renter, you're going to go to the facility, you're going to say you want to rent a unit, and it's a 10 by 10 and you're renting it for $100 a month, you're going to see that there may or may not be a tenant insurance mandatory, or maybe it's not even mandatory. Maybe it's optional tenant insurance plan. And these tenant insurance plans are generally run about $10 a month. Okay. So $10 a month. So it'd bring your total to, say, $110 a month. Now, as an owner, when you flip this and you're on the owner side, what we do is we make sure that it is mandatory for all of our renters. So all of our renters have to have tenant insurance. Now, they don't have to have tenant insurance from us, from the ones that we have. So if they have renter's insurance, or they have some type of other insurance that covers their stored items, then that's fine, as long as they show us that they have that and that it's in good standing. That's fine. We'll take that. But if they don't, they're going to be automatically enrolled in our insurance. And how that works is that they pay about $10 a month. Say it's roughly $10 a month. Well, as the owners, we get a commission off of that each month, each time somebody pays. So we get a commission per person per month. All right. So say it's $10. That average commission, it's going to be somewhere around 50%. So, it can be as low as 40% if you maybe don't have that many units. It can be up as high as 70% if you've negotiated and have that negotiated and you have a high number of units, right? So let's just say it's 50%. So of the $10 that comes in for tenant insurance, you will collect $5, and $5 will go to the actual insurance company or protection company. They're actually two different things, just so you know. Tenant insurance is different than tenant protection. It kind of, I don't know, it's just kind of a way that insurance has to be regulated. Tenant protection doesn't, and it's kind of a plan. So in essence, it basically is the same thing. I don't know. Maybe somebody will nitpick me and say that they're totally different things, but in essence, you're going to offer one or the other. Okay. So I just got to use them interchangeably, and for the sake of this discussion. All right. So again, 50% comes to you, 50% goes to the carrier, the plan provider, right? So just for numbers' sake, I'll give you an example, like on our properties, right? So on the very first property we took over, property has about like 150 units. You're averaging like 150 units, right? That when we took it over, it has like a little bit more, but some of them are parking spaces and other things like that. But so this particular property, we took it over about a year and a half ago. 82% of our renters have insurance, right? 82%. So that means, like I said, it's optional. And if they have their own insurance, then, we can accept their own insurance. But in this case, 82% are buying our insurance every single month. So if we're collecting $10 and we're getting 50%, basically we're getting $5 more per person on each unit. And that's just kind of consistently. If you look at my second property, or one of our other properties that we bought it about a year ago. So it's July of 2021. The rate is about the same. So it's about 81% acceptance rate of our insurance. Again, 50-50 expense rate, 50-50 split. So we're getting about 100 of those units have tenant insurance. The previous one had about 116. So if you look at that, you're thinking, well, that's about $500 to maybe close to maybe $600 or $550, somewhere on there, extra a month where we never increased the actual rent. We just added tenant insurance on top of it, on top of their current rent. Okay. So that's another way to bring in additional income, right? And I think it's probably one of the easiest ways. Generally, this takes about 3 months to implement, right? So when we take over a property, right away, we're sending out notices that say, we are the new owners. Here is the new lease. If you want to stay, this is, you basically have signed the new lease and you're agreeing to this new lease. If you don't want to stay, you're welcome to leave, but this is the new lease that you're in agreement for. That goes into effect, then we send them out another letter. Hey, mandatory tenant insurance. Here's where it is now. It's going to cost $10 a month. or else you provide your own insurance to us. And within, let's say, a month or two after that, it basically kicks in and we start. So it takes, 3 or 4 months before it actually happens. But it's pretty quick, and it's not much effort. It's really like the letters go out. We give them a sort of a grace period of 30 days. They either accept it or they don't. And then after that, it's basically charged, automatically charged onto their credit card, ACH or whatever it is. But they're basically automatically billed that amount going forward. So easy way to increase your income is through tenant insurance, tenant protection plan. And it is something that we look for when we're buying a property is, do they have or do they require tenant insurance? And if they don't, that's a big bonus for us, because I think we're going to do it automatically. And these are smaller properties, right? I mentioned these are like 100 units, or we have 100 units that are paying this tenant insurance. It's like, 150 total units or 175 total units. So they're kind of like on the smaller side. As you start to grow, you start to buy bigger properties. Last one we bought was 350 units, and there's like 3 people that are paying tenant insurance. So that's like, if we got 80% of 350 units, you can see where that adds up, right? We've bought other properties before that had 450 units, and they had no tenant insurance. There was no tenant insurance at all on any of those. So imagine that you get 80% of those tenants paying tenant insurance every month. So it's a great way to increase your income. Okay, awesome. All right, let's move on to the next one. All right, today, number 2, let's talk about additional ways of bringing in income. And this is parking. All right. So with parking, you're basically trying to look for places on your property that you either don't want to build yet, or that you have space, or that maybe the previous owner had space there and they may have offered maybe parking, but it's in kind of weird shapes, right? They didn't really care. So they just let people park anywhere, right? And so, that anybody, if you allow that, then there's going to be big gaps between each parking space, and you're not optimizing your space. So the idea is really to maximize the space that you have. And if you have any of these extra additional, plots of land or pieces of land that are attached to your property, you can start to charge parking for them, right? And let me just kind of go over some of the numbers really quick, and then I'll go over some of the pictures. But what are people parking? So people are parking vehicle parkings, right? So they're putting cars there, trucks there, trailers. Sometimes, like, people have people who are contractors oftentimes have a little trailer that they bring with them. So it's they're not a gigantic trailer, but it's a small trailer, and you can put these in your parking spots. There's also boats. A lot of people are buying boats, and they can be big. So you're going to need big parking spots for these boats. Depending on what size spot you have, it's going to help determine what kind of boats you can bring in there. Same with RVs, right? A lot of people, RVs are super hot. I don't know if you know that right now, but the boat and RV parking sort of industry seems to be growing. Throughout COVID, there was more RVs sold in that year than there was, however long. It's just like it spiked, basically because people couldn't travel internationally or on a plane. They didn't want to travel on a plane. They didn't want to be around people. So what do? They buy an RV, and then they get to travel around the United States at campgrounds, beaches, mountains, things like that. So there was just like people were buying RVs all over the place. Now they have to find a place to park them, because now you have an RV that you spent $100,000 on, $200,000 on, and you got to park it somewhere. And a lot of times people's neighborhood associations do not allow them to park these big vehicles there. So they have to park them in a place that could be your self-storage facility. All right. And just for numbers' sake, just so that you know, so the same two properties that I spoke about before, some of the early ones that I bought, we also have parking on them, or we are instituting parking on them. So one of them we've had parking on for a year. So there's already been they already had 11 spaces for parking. And those 11 spaces pay us like $79 a month, right? So that's like $870 a year. $870 a month total between all those 11 units. Now, this facility, it's not a big facility, right? So it brings in a like gross amount is around like $12,000-$13,000 right now a month, right? So if it's bringing in $12,000-$13,000 a month, and it's bringing in additional $870 through parking from 11 parking spaces, that's like 7% of the income, right? So that's a big boost. So if you're thinking in any business that you can increase your top line 7% by adding something that doesn't cost you very much money, I mean, that's a great deal, right? You should definitely consider that, right? That's it, and you should feel very happy if you can do anything like that. So let's talk about my other property. My other property right now, it was an empty lot. Well, I'll show you some pictures actually, but numbers wise, how it works out numbers wise is that we're charging about $100 per spot. There's 13 spots, and actually there's probably more than 13. There's actually could be about 3 more spots. So we might have up to 15. So you're talking, let's just say it's 13 because that's what we have for right now. $1,300 extra dollars a month on a $13,000 total that the property is bringing in. You know, it's like extra 10%, right? So you're talking 10% extra revenue just from adding 13 parking spots, right? Now, they're not full, right? We just got them. So we just kind of, you know, laid them out, fenced them in, and did all the, you know, painted them, things like that. So they're not full yet. My previous one, the 11 units, those are all full, and nobody's ever left them. So parking is pretty sticky, you know, because if somebody loses their parking spot, they, you know, it's one of those things. Where are you going to park your boat or your RV or your trailer, things like that. Well, let's take a look. I got some pictures to show you. And so let's see here. Let me hide we didn't include this in our underwriting, in our business plan. So we knew we were going to do it, but we didn't include it in as far as any of our income. So all that additional income of, say, we're anticipating getting anywhere from 1,300, maybe 1,500 if we rent out the other couple spots. That's all additional income. So that's like 10% additional income that we just never put inside of our actual pro forma. All right. So it's great for the bottom line, the top line, and great for the project in general. All right. So I'm coming up on our third and our sort of final discussion on additional income. Let me see here. Let's talk about the third one. All right, is units. And what do I mean by units? So each of these storage, at your facility, you have a number of units. And I'm talking about adding units to your self-storage facility, right? So it could be like an expansion. So say if you have land, and then, when you have all this land, you can, entitle it and then, lay it down concrete or lay down some gravel or something, and then put up a self-storage facility and add additional units. But sometimes you don't have additional land. So in our property, we don't have these two properties, we don't have additional land that's available. There's no, we don't have much. And I showed you the parking in terms of like, that's how much land we have, right? And so it really wasn't worth it for us to build and pay all that to add like, 6 units, right? So it just wouldn't be worth it. So that's why we did parking. However, what you can do is you can add, there's a couple different ways of adding units in tight places. So there are portable units that you can buy. There's a number of different companies that supply portable self-storage units, right? And these portable self-storage units, basically, they'll ship them to you and they'll erect them and build and basically, put them all together for you. And you can put them in sort of odd spaces in your location. So sometimes you have corners, or you go right up against the fence, or, there's, just kind of odd sections where there's actually space there, but there's not enough space for you to actually build there because of, it could be regulations that you can't build that close to the property line, or it's just doesn't fit very well. Well, you can buy these portable units and then put them in those places. And there's a number of different companies that sell these portable units. Another thing, and this is something that we've done, is that there are apartments. A lot of times when you buy a self-storage facility, a lot of times they were built with an apartment there. So during, when people plan to build these facilities, especially back in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, they built them assuming that there's going to be an on-site manager who's going to live there, right? So there's a living space. There's an apartment actually there. Now with that apartment, many of you know, you're in multifamily investing. You know that there's not very many apartments around, right? So you can rent it out, and that's what we do. We have, not on these properties that I showed you, but on another couple of our properties, we have some apartments there that we just rent out to renters. So we furnish them fully, so they're fully furnished, and we rent them out to like people who are on contracted services. So they work with like the oil refineries where we're located. And some of the people who work at these oil refineries have a contract for, say, 6 months. Well, if they're going to get an apartment for 6 months, it's much more attractive to find one that's furnished, because they don't want to go buy a bunch of furniture for 6 months and then leave, right? So find one that's furnished. Sometimes, it's close to the refinery, or, it's in the geographic location. And because it's furnished, and maybe we even provide internet, things like that, it's easy for them and that's a desirable spot for them to rent. So we've rented out 4 apartments, and we're currently renting out a couple, like our last one, and we rent them out anywhere from $1,000 to $1,400 per unit, right? And that's a pretty good price for a furnished unit. So, if you're talking about, it's about the same size of these properties that I show you, and you're bringing in an extra $1,000 a month per unit, right? And we have 4 of them, anywhere from $1,400 to or $1,000 to $1,400. You're like an extra $5,000, almost $5,000 a month that we're bringing in extra on top of our storage, just our regular rent, right? So renting out your apartments is a great thing, and that's definitely an additional way to bring in more income. There's also things like your office space. Okay, so for us, because of the way we run our facility, we run it unmanned. So that means there's not any person in there, and we don't need anybody in the office. So when we have an office space, we want to rent it out to maybe a business, or we want to do something like we'll convert it into climate controlled storage, right? So now we have climate controlled storage at a couple of our facilities. We're in the process of getting that up and running, but we're basically building it out, got the plans and everything. But I'll show you a little bit of, just kind of how it looks when you're buying a property and what you're looking for, right? So let's take a look at this. Got some pictures here. It's and it doesn't necessarily need to cost all that much, right? I mean, the payback on it is pretty fast. So I mean, we're anticipating this is going to cost us somewhere around $15,000 to $20,000. I don't know. It'll be around there, and if in 1 year we're going to make $12,000, I mean, the payback is really fast on it. So that's those are the three areas that I wanted to discuss. So again, just talking about additional income, talking about insurance, we talked about parking, and we talked about units, additional units. Now there are other things. There's plenty of other things. I just want to go over some of the things that we do, or we have done, just because I have experience with them. But there's other things that I don't have experience with, but there are other projects that will bring in other income. So maybe you have a cell phone tower, maybe you have a billboard. Those are other ways that you can bring in additional money, right? We just don't have any cell phone or any billboards at our facility, so I can't really tell you or give you any personal firsthand examples of experience with them. So at this point, if you have any questions, I know that a bunch of people have written in here, and I'm happy to answer the questions that have popped up. But definitely ask your questions now, and then we'll kind of get through them. All right. And if you can, again, if you can give me a thumbs up or a like on this, I would definitely really appreciate it on the platform that you're watching. And let's go from there. So let's see. Okay. So let's see. We got a Facebook user here. Thank you for joining. Always wanted to have a self-storage venture as an additional revenue stream. I wasn't sure how to go about it. So yeah, I mean, the whole thing can be additional revenue stream, but there's many different revenue streams inside of self-storage for sure. Let me see. Okay, here's one. Kago, hey, what's up, buddy? Good to see you. Another avenue stream for income is U-Haul, a moving company. Yep, exactly. So you can reach out to U-Haul or moving companies, and a lot of times you can get a contract with them to put the U-Haul trucks, or maybe it's Penske trucks, on your property and then have them rented out, right? And you can get a commission from those companies for putting their trucks there. So that's another way to bring in money as well. So thank you, Kago. You're definitely right there. Okay, let's see, what else do I got here? Okay, let me see. All right, here's one. Okay, Facebook user, thank you for I'm not sure who it is, but let's see your question. Do you build these units from the ground up with your own brand or franchise through one of the larger brands that provide the blueprint? What type of zoning is required to put in self-storage in a self-storage facility? Okay, well, the answer to the first question is, do I build these units from the ground up? I do not. So all the facilities that I have bought so far have been existing facilities. I have not done any ground up development. I do not plan to do any ground up development in probably 2022, unless I felt like there was just something so good I could not pass it up. But right now, my focus is to buy existing properties, and I'll probably do as well as maybe 1 or 2 conversions in 2022. But as far as ground up development, most of the time I'm just passing on those opportunities, unless I feel it's so good that I can't pass it up. So let's see. The rest of the question was, what type of zoning is required? It's going to matter in terms of what city you're in. So you need to talk to the city to find out if you're zoned correctly for self-storage, right? So I'm doing an expansion on one of my properties right now. So I forgot what the zoning code is, but it was like C1 or something like that. It's commercial 1, and it wasn't zoned that. We have to get a special use permit to make sure that it's zoned specifically for self-storage. So oftentimes you need to do something like that. It may be zoned as commercial, but you need a special use permit that you need to get approved from the city. So I would suggest you talk to you talk to the city, or you talk to people like, there's attorneys, there are as well as other people that are contractors that will do that for you. So we pay somebody who he has a contracting kind of consulting service, and at my facility where we're expanding and we bought some extra land and we're going to expand over there, we just pay him to go through the process for us and get those entitled for us. Excuse me, let me get some water here. Okay, hopefully that answers your question. But since I don't have like direct experience with doing a ground up from the very beginning, I can't answer that fully, but I can answer from a expansion point of view. Okay, here's another question. And keep the questions coming. So if you got another question, type them in there. I guess I got a few more questions, and then and then we'll end. So of the units you are acquiring, how do you find the opportunities? Okay, so it's all a question about finding properties, right? Finding deals. So finding deals, I feel like there's 2 different ways. There's 2 different ways to do it, right? It depends on your strategy. So your strategy is either going direct to seller, which means you are either cold calling them, you are sending them letters, you are driving by the facility, you are trying to meet directly with the owner of that facility in some way, right? Text messages, letters, postcards, whatever it is. And you find that person and you become good friends with them, and you try to let them know that you want to buy the property and see if they're interested in selling. Okay, so that's direct to seller. I don't do direct to seller. I can give you the reasons why I don't do direct to seller, but I have only done it with brokers. So the second way to do it is to go through brokers. Now there's a bunch of different brokers out there across the United States that have self-storage or interested in self-storage or have self-storage listings. And the idea for me is to make contact with them, find out what type of deals they have, tell them what offers that I would like to put on those particular properties, tell them what I like and what's my buying criteria, what's my history, and hopefully I'll be able to get a deal. I'll be able to get a deal from them. So I'll just quickly go over some of the, pros and cons, I guess, since we're talking about how to find opportunities, right? if you're going to go find them by yourself and go to direct to seller, you can probably get a better deal than you would get through going through a broker, right? I mean, there's no middleman. You've cut out the middleman and you're going direct to seller. So you can get some terms that you may be very creative. Maybe you're going to put no money down. Maybe you're going to do a lot of seller financing. Maybe you're going to, you have some other kind of way of partnering with them, and you take it over, and you run the operations, and then they do, you build up you separate the partnership some way. I don't know. There's a bunch of different things that you can do if you're going direct to seller. Now, yes. So at Advantage, you can get a great deal. You can get a very competitive deal. You can get a very competitive, a very creative deal. And bad thing that I think about it is that it's very difficult to do if you're not in that location. Okay, so I live in Los Angeles. All of my properties are all over the place. These ones that I showed you here these two are in Baton Rouge. The other ones that I talked about in terms of renting out renting out the apartments, those ones are in Mississippi. So it's not like I can just go down the street and just see this one self-storage facility and then try to find the owner and then try to make contact with that owner and say, hey, I want to take a look and come to your facility and buy it. Because if they say, yeah, I want you to just come by and meet me at my property, it's like I live 2,000 miles away from them. So I'm not going to fly out there just to talk to them about maybe they want to sell. It's just a waste of time for me. All right. So that's why I don't do it. So am I going to pay a higher price? Probably. Am I still going to pay a price that I think is going to be a great deal for myself and my investors? Yeah, I'm going to make sure it's that, right? So I'm not going to buy it just to buy it, right? I'm still going to make sure it's a great deal. Okay. Let's see. All right. Thank you so much. But hopefully that answers your question about finding deals, right? So through brokers or direct to seller. All right. Okay. Another Facebook user. Thank you for asking the questions here. Again, if you guys, there's a link, I think in the description, right? Where if you click the link and I think you put in your name, it'll tell me who you are and show me your picture. It's kind of like Kago had it earlier. All right. But can you talk about your branding? Do you keep the brand that was there? Okay, well, so this is all your choice. It's all your choice. Now, do I keep the brand? I mean, if you're asking me personally, no. I mean, you guys can see my brand in the background. I guess this side right here. That's Radiant Storage, right? So Radiant Storage is my brand. And so everything that we take over, basically right away, as soon as we can, we're taking down the old signs and we're putting up the new signs. Radiant Storage is now the owner. We're putting a new location on our website that now we have purchased a new location, and it's a Radiant Storage branded facility. And so that's what I do, but it's your choice about you can do what you want. Some of the reasons why you may not want to just keep the exact brand, it depends on what the reputation is of the brand, right? So if you bought something and you're buying a value add property, like I buy value add properties, and sometimes they don't have that great of reputation online, right? They might have a 2 rating or 3-star rating or something just not so good. And so I don't want to necessarily keep that as my, starting from there. They got 15 reviews that are all 2 stars. Well, if I get a couple that are 4 stars, well, I'm still barely above 2.5 stars, right? I don't really like that idea. So I'd rather start from scratch, at least with my name and my brand. Now you might be able to keep some of the reviews, depending on how you transfer your ownership of your accounts, your Google My Business account or your Yelp account. But there's other things like you're going to have to create the LLC, right? Or the business name. It's got to be similar to the business name that you wanted to keep, right? So you're creating, if you bought one from Radiant Storage, are you going to create Radiant Storage, self-storage in, I don't know, in Baton Rouge? You're going to create that LLC. It's very similar to what I already had. So I don't know. In some ways, I just feel like it's better, just cleaner, just to not use their brand. So, but again, it is your choice. So you can do whatever you feel like is best. All right. Let's see. We got another Facebook question here. what type of capital / terms are you typically getting financing on self-storage units? Okay, this is a good one. And I think this is a good one for a lot of people to compare, because you're probably wondering, what are you getting in multifamily, right? Or single family, or whatever, what other real estate are you doing, and what's the comparison? So I will tell you, for me, it's a little different now that I have a fairly decent track record versus when I started. Okay, so the terms and the capital and everything like that is a little different now than it was then. Okay, so let me just start off with what I was getting then. All right, so I was, my very first facility, actually, we got a lot of no's. A lot of people said no. They didn't, even though I had a multifamily background, and I thought that the lending side would be really easy. It was actually one of the most difficult sides of it. So we actually just went with the private lender. So we went with the private lender, and we got a private lender just to lend us on our very first facility. And even on another one of my facilities, we just got a private lender to fund our deal, which is a lot easier. I'll tell you that much. It's a lot easier. Nowadays, what I'm seeing is, like, generally we're putting down 65%, anywhere from 65 to 70%. No, sorry, we're not putting that down. That's the loan size. We are putting down 30 to 35% down. My last deal, we put down 35%, and it was about a $5 million deal. We put down 35%. It closed at 4.1% interest. 4.1% interest. It's partial recourse. So it was done through a bank, and they gave us partial recourse. Prepayment penalty was 3 years. 3%, 2%, 0%, 0%. So it basically stepped down from 3% to 2% to 0% in year 3, which is awesome for us. Let me see. Based off a 25-year amortization schedule, right? So hopefully that answers your questions, right? That's what I did on my last one, and that's through a bank. So that was through a bank. I've also done one through a CMBS loan. It was a little different. That one was like 5.25%. That was 5 years, interest only, all 5 years, and non-recourse. So non-recourse. But yeah, I mean, there's a couple different ones that you can get. So I have one through a bank. I have one through a credit union. I have one through a life insurance company. And so life insurance companies will actually lend to self-storage facilities. You have to be above $1 million at least. I have one that's through CMBS. Again, you're going to have to be above $1 million for them to lend to you. And I have two that are private loans as well. Okay, so number of different ones. Hopefully that answers your question. If it doesn't answer your question, feel free to ask a follow-up question here. Okay. How many investors do you typically have on each of these, and are they structured separately as S corps? Okay. Okay. So it depends on the deal. So in terms of how we structure it, right? First of all, to answer your question, are they structured as S corps? The answer is no. So they're not structured as S corps. We don't structure our things as S corps. How many investors in the deal? So that depends on the actual deal. So in general, I either do a joint venture, and I do a joint venture on deals that are about 3 million or below. And then I can get like a pretty small group of people, and us as a small group of people can probably take down about a $3 million deal. And then if it's above that amount, so one of the properties I did was like a $10.5 million deal. That one, it was too large for me to do a joint venture with just a small group of people. So we syndicated that deal. So we had 70 partners on that deal, so there's a lot of different partners on the, that's including the general partnership as well as the limited partnership, limited partners there. So it could be anywhere from 70 to just a handful of people, right? Depends on the deal size. So for you, and what I'd say for me, it matters more for like, what is your network made of, right? So if you have 5 people in your network and they're all going to come in with $50,000, well, that's $250,000 that of money that you've sort of raised in equity, plus whatever you're bringing in. That tells you about what size property you can go get. Because if you have to put 35% down, plus any capex, you can kind of back into the math on that and figure out what size property you can get. As your network starts to grow, and you start to get people that are going to invest 100,000, 150,000, 200,000, and you have now 5 people that are going to invest 200,000. Well, that's, you just raised $1 million, right? So now you can buy different size properties. And so it matters really, like, what is your network? Like, in terms of your network, what are they going to be bringing in, right? And so it's just kind of like, for me right now, I feel like comfortable with a purchase price under $3 million that my network is going to be able to support that with a small handful of people on a joint venture. Okay. So let me see. Okay. So that's, let's see. I think I got a few more questions before I get to these other questions too. I just wanted to, again, thank you for those of you who left a thumbs up. I really appreciate that. I do like to announce, I do have a mentorship program. For those of you who are interested in any type of like getting in type of a mentorship and want to get in an actual deal and want to get in a deal ASAP, let me know, because that's something that we could talk about. And I just like to point out, it's not really an education program. It's not really here to educate you. It's really to get you inside of a deal, an actual deal that I'd be doing. All right. So if you're interested in that, there is a link to partner with me. Just fill out that link and you can partner with me. We are also creating a real estate investing fund. It's actually already created. We just don't really, it's already created, and we're going to be investing. That fund will be some of the things that we'll be investing inside of our deals as well. And so if you're interested in investing in a fund, there are some definitely advantages of investing in a fund. Let me know. That is a 506C. Okay. Just so you know, it's accredited investors only. And so that's, if you're interested in that, let me know. Okay. Otherwise, I believe that is it. That's it for tonight. Don't forget, I try to do this, I don't know, periodically. I try to do this like once every 2 weeks, once every week or so. I know I don't have like a totally set schedule, but it's really because I'm trying to give people real life examples of what we're doing when you are a self-storage investor, right? I don't really just want to talk about, hey, how do you find a deal or what markets to choose? And it's just kind of rehashing a lot of things that you can probably find in other places. I want to give you like clear examples of what we're doing. And then you can kind of take that as like experience for yourself. And, hopefully that helps you be more successful in your own deal. So if you like it, give me a thumbs up. Plan to do this again fairly soon. Reach out to me on social media. So send me a message on social media. And if you have any questions, definitely ping me there, and then I'll bring those questions into our chat here and be able to answer the questions. Okay. Let's see. I got a couple last things. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much. It's a good high level overview. Yep. Thank you very much there. And can I do a video on 506C and how you raise capital? Okay. So raising capital. Yeah, I can definitely do videos on raising capital. So that might be something I could do next time. Okay. Appreciate it. Thank you very much, everybody. Talk to you soon. Take care. Have a good day.